We'll start off with our education update. As you may have seen on Chiefs Uncut, Grand Chief Mike Delisle addressed the education issue, which represents the official position of the table. As well, Portfolio Chiefs Kahsennenhawe Sky Deer and Kenneth McComber have been on this program to give their rationale as to why certain actions have been taken over the past few months. However, we felt that all council chiefs should have the opportunity to speak about how they came to their decision on this volatile issue.
The decision was extremely tough, and because of the people sitting on it, happened to be family and good friends, I had to omit their names in order to follow through with the procedures and everything, the information that I have from the people. And everything that we went through, I've read. I mean, there was so much information on it that we went through. I went through it twice. I wanted to be sure before anything. And when I was finally done reading the information and everything going on from information from both sides that I had in the situation, and I did the right thing, I believe, because to me it's about the children and nothing else. I'm sorry if people have felt personal about it. It's nothing personal. To me, it's about the children, and it seems like that's what people are tending to forget a little bit on the situation, and that bothers me a lot because my heart's with the children, and that's where it's got to be.
Was there enough information out there?
As usual, on any circumstance, in any situation dealing with anybody, you're not going to have every last documentation of it. At the time, I understood I had 90% or almost close to 100% of the information, and that's what I went through with. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I had pretty close to it.
Do you see this, how do you see this being resolved?
I was actually hoping for the resolution of it is everybody stop, stepping back, getting together, work together on it. That's where we're supposed to be. It's not a confrontation from anybody. We're supposed to get together and be one and give all your input on it together biasly. Sit down, explain your problems with it, and then we can work together. Because from my point, if you look at it this way, which the way I kind of looked at it a little bit, is that half the students are going off the reserve, and just by that alone tells you there's something wrong. And that is the main thing. And then when this was done, a lot of people were saying they were going to pull their children. I mean, that's a fact of it. I hate to say it that way, but it had to be done one way or another. We're not fighting. We don't want to fight nobody. That's it. You know, I mean, we're not fighting for anything. We're fighting for the kids. And the kids is what's important.
What I wanted to say is, considering all the meetings that have been going on in the community for the last several months, there's still a big concern out there because there's still a lot of people who are very unhappy, and I think it depends on what side of the fence that you're sitting on. Yes, each group is gaining momentum, but there's still a big issue. They haven't been able to come to any sort of agreement or compromise or, trying to look forward. There's a lot of blame out there. There's a lot of which is really disturbing. People are intimidated to say anything at this point because of the threats that have been out there by some individuals. So, I stand by that decision that we've made, and I really hope that this will be concluded fairly soon. All parties agree that the Constitution needs work, and yes, that's paramount. But also, I think, let's not forget that we have our education system to think about. So, people need to put their own issues aside and their own agendas aside and get to work on what's really important here, and it's the education of our children.
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do. And took a lot of reading. As soon as I got here, I realized that this topic was something that we were going to be engaging in. I asked for all the documents, and I received all the documents, and I began to read them. And as I read them, I realized that there were two hard and fast positions, and nothing seemed to be resolving itself, and things were getting ugly and worse. And I made the decision I thought would be the best, and that we had to step into the unenviable position of being the guys in the middle. Ultimately, the budgetary buck stops here, and we have to ensure that what kind of work we're doing benefits the whole community. And there was a real threat, I perceived, that things were not going to get better. And quite honestly, and I told the council table this, I thought back in May or in June something should have been done. But I can also understand that elections were looming. It's not a popular decision, that's for sure, and it's the last thing anybody wanted to do, and it's not for sure a power struggle. Let's try to resolve these issues. Let's try to take the thorns out from the positions that parties have taken and resolve this for the good of the community. Now, I was involved very early on, from 78 on. I was in the schools. I really relied only on my principal in those days. And I could teach school and not be bothered. I never thought about the education committee, except that my husband then, Jody Ohm, was on the education committee. But that was the only time when I got in touch with the Constitution or the work that was ongoing at the time concerning education. I understand how deeply felt and how emotional it can be for those persons who I have great respect for, who did all of this hard work to free education for Kahnawake. I really respect the work they've done. And when I read through the Constitutions and the other versions of the Constitution, I began to realize that it's almost as if the original good Constitution was being changed into a really process-driven piece that didn't give anyone the kind of voice that they should have in the education of their children. And I really hope that we can get to this issue, because I think that that's the cornerstone, and I also think that the processes that'll evolve out of that have to be something that all people can access, whether it is on sites, computer sites, where there's going to be the actual black and white and not 5 different versions or 6 different versions of a constitution and processes that are different. And so persons bringing a motion are told, oh no, you're out of time, it can't happen yet. And it just creates the 2 different camps. We can't have this in our community. We have to get on with it. Our people, our children have to see that we're working for their good, and that good things are going to come out of this. And that's the reason why I took the decision I did.
Well, it was an extremely tough decision to come to. You know, this is not a power struggle. This is not do as I say. It has nothing to do with that. You know, I think every single person at council had lost sleep many nights over this issue. We know that the community is torn as a result of this decision that we had to come to, that we felt we had to come to. And, you know, nobody took this lightly. It was one of the most toughest decisions I've had to make in the 3 years that I've been in council. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is what's best for the children of Kahnawake. I don't think anybody out there in our community would say that, you know, give them a mediocre stab at life. We want nothing but the best. We want our children to succeed. We want them to get the best education. We want them to go out there and get university degrees. We want them to gain as much knowledge as they can possibly get and come back to Kahnawake and use their knowledge. And hopefully that would give them the best steps in life and for a sound future. And they need a solid base. And with that in mind, I stand by my decision.
Was there anything in particular that made it easier for you to say, we have to get this done?
Well, you know, we've, I guess, being privy to certain things and speaking to parents, one of the issues that I really have a hard time dealing with is 2 constitutions. You know, people are you know, I would like to say that they were doing the best that they possibly could, but if your best is, you know, based on wrong information or a wrong constitution or wrong marching orders, then it's wrong. What concerns me also is that we've been informed that there is a delegation of concerned parents, who feel that this is their child's one stab at getting what they need, a firm base in education, and they're willing to do whatever they can. They don't want their child to get involved in politics or the politics of the entire situation here, or because this one's arguing, this one's not arguing. They want what's best for their child, and who can blame them? They feel so strongly about this that they are willing and ready to go to Ottawa to demand that the Minister of Indian Affairs take over all responsibilities in regards to education. Now, you want to talk about a setback? That'll set Kahnawake back 50 years. Everything that was worked for by the people who are no longer breathing today, by committees, by boards that were in place for decades, will be all washed down the drain. You want to be concerned? Well, let's be concerned about that.
Well, when we started, there was so much to start off with, and KCSE is a big issue here for us. And we have a lot of people telling us that we've been bullied or pressured into making this decision. And I find that very false, because at the time when we were looking at the decision and on our decision on how we're going to move forward, it was a difficult one. But at the beginning, I was, just from what I was being told and the information I was gained, I didn't really have my decision made up, and at the time I was ready to vote against the whole decision. But I asked for all the information in regards to the complaints, the people, and whatever have you, just to investigate and to look further into the issue. I received all documents, many documents over a long period of time. And after reading the complaints of parents and teachers and community members, I finally came up with a decision, which I knew was going to be contentious. But I didn't just look at it as a council chief, but I looked at it as a parent, a grandfather, an uncle. And I based my decision for the wellness of our kids, our children.
Oh, you said you looked at the information. Did everybody receive the information?
Yes, everybody had the information. Prior to that, I was advised, but as the new chiefs, the three of us that got elected, were all police officers with many years of experience. And from our experience, we conducted our own investigation into the matter. And when people tell me you made a decision, you're bullied into it, I've never been bullied into a position. We've investigated the 4 new chiefs. We investigated it thoroughly. We worked together. We dissected it, and we came up with our own decisions. And that's where I'm standing. And I'm standing strong with the decision I made to, move forward with this.
Do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
I do, because people are, you have 2 parties fighting and arguing. Us as the way we deal with things, we try to jump in the middle and separate and diffuse the situation. And my goal in this is to diffuse it, bring it back to the people, and have them working together again.
Well, I was given a lot of information about the file and the complaint. Being a peacekeeper, I was on duty on June 18th when the peacekeepers had to be called to a meeting, which was a little surprising. So from then on, I kind of been paying attention to the situation. When I received the folder, I had a lot of information in the folder about complaints. There was suggestions of wrongdoings and illegal seats being held by certain committee members, and we wanted to follow up on all of these things, so we had to ask the committee to come in on an individual basis, because each person had a different complaint or violation that was made against them. So that's why they were asked individually. At the time, we received a letter stating that they were unavailable. There was no suggestion of an alternate date, an alternate meeting of any sorts. It was just not available, and that was it. So we tried to get both sides of the story. And I come from a policing background, so I take the information that I have, and I viewed it, and I wasn't getting cooperation from the other side. So I had to make a decision what was before me and people who were cooperating with this situation.
Did you feel at any time pressured by, like, say, other council chiefs, or especially council chiefs who had been in office before you came in?
No, being a peacekeeper, I mean, I've dealt with pressure, and I handle pressure well. I'm not going to be bullied into any kind of situation. I face everything head on, and that's what I'm used to. And I took everything from a policing perspective. I laid out the evidence in front of me, and that's what I was given, and I had to work with what I had. And when somebody doesn't want to comply with you, it's a form of obstruction. That's what I look at it as.
All right. So as we move along here, things aren't getting any easier right now. Do you see resolution here?
It's a very difficult situation. I can see why the council had tried to stay out of it. They wanted it to resolve itself. Unfortunately, it only got deeper, and the problems were greater. So it came to a point where, I mean, as a public office, you're working for the community, and when you have community members coming to you begging you to do something, you can't just sit back and say, well, no, I can't, my hands are tied. Your hands are not tied. You have to step in and help this community, because there's many people on all sides, and right now those two sides can't come together, and education is suffering, and we can't let that happen.
Well, no, it's probably one of the more difficult decisions I had to come to. My experience being on council, I know we had a lot of controversial issues, but this was probably one of the tougher ones, because we knew it was gonna have some divisions in the community. We knew that it was going to be people in opposition to what we're attempting to do here. But it had to be done, I believe, because we have to push the process forward. Everybody acknowledges on both sides of the fence, so to speak, acknowledge that there's problems with the Constitution and there was problems with the current system. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a little bit of controversy to get things to change, and if council, giving that little extra push is going to create that dialogue between all the parties, looking forward to the best interests of education and the children, and I think it'll be a right thing to do. And I think there's enough good minds in the community, and people really looking for the interest of our children and the education system, that it will happen, and we'll look back at this time in the future and without as much negative opinions, and see that maybe it was something that was needed. Well, I mean, some people think the council is in doing this for a power play, or trying to take more and more authority away from the parents, away from the community. It's to the contrary. We want to ensure that all parents' voice are heard, no matter what your opinion is. All parents have an equal voice, equal opportunity to say your piece on how you see the future of education and the constitution of the combined school committee. So we want to ensure that takes place. And whatever the decisions the parents make is fine, and council's not going to try to dictate on that. It's something that is truly a community-based initiative. I said, unfortunately, we had to take a step to make sure people have the opportunity to clearly speak their mind.